Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a handpicked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else.
Welcome everyone to Your Future in Sales and Marketing. My name is Mike Dixon, Director of the AXR Sales and Marketing Practice. Today we're joined in the pod by Sam Hutson, General Manager of Nudie Foods. Coincidentally, my favorite brand of orange juice. Sam,
there you go.
Welcome to the pod. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. I just said that for free samples, that was all. But no, I do love it. I do love it. I'm only kidding.
You can pop in at any time.
Great.
Freebie Fridays.
Yeah, Freebie Fridays. Brilliant. Let's get into it. So, usual couple of starter questions, Sam. First one is your favorite brand and not one that you've worked on.
So I struggle with this because I do get emotionally invested in brands that I work on, but I'll choose Messina's. So reason being, it's an absolute institution in Australia. I feel like 12 years ago, I lived in Surrey Hills, and just the way that like the stores are set up is so engaging. So you can kind of see the in-store theatre with the gelato being made in the background. So, as many free samples as you want. And over time, they've just grown and grown. So I found out last week that they actually do chocolate bars now, and they've expanded into Hong Kong as well. So yeah, I just think as a brand, that kind of brand experience and high quality, new, exciting flavors, they do a really good job.
Yeah, I think experiential marketing is very cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny, in Northern Beaches and Manly's just like constantly getting new ice cream places. And Messina came in and also, I was on Anita's, I think. There's always this massive line outside.
Yeah. So funnily enough, when I lived in Surrey Hills, somebody that lived opposite the store actually set up an Instagram account. So you could actually message and see how long the queue was.
Really?
Yeah.
That's quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah, really
That's
cool.
actually consumers acting on your behalf there.
Yeah. It's recognisable as well. It's gone into the supermarkets now as well. So
love it. Good. Okay. Next, a bit about you. So where did you grow up, Sam? We're going to do a lot on your career and your journey and you as a leader. But where did you grow up? What was life like before the career started?
So you might be able to tell by my accent, but I'm a northern girl from England. So I'm actually from close to a little seaside town called Blackpool. So if there's any Brits listening, I'm sure you'll have heard of Blackpool. It's definitely an interesting place. Not quite as bad as people make out. But yeah, lots of theme parks, drunken tourists. There's definitely a lot going on there. So
what's it like in the winter?
I wouldn't go for a walk on the prom during winter. Definitely not. But yeah, it's nice. Like I've got a big family there and stuff, which, I miss them heaps being over here. But yeah, it was a great place to grow up. And I was there until 18 and then went to Leeds University. So yeah. And
from Leeds Uni, did you kind of have a thought about career when you were, back then I didn't, but were you kind of one of those people who were very fixed on what you wanted to do?
No, I wasn't. So when I was at school, I was actually really academic. I loved maths. I was a maths nerd, but I wanted to do something really creative. Art was my favorite subject. I actually did my work experience at 16 in the circus, in the costume department.
Really?
Yeah.
Blackpool circus.
There you go. There you go. Opportunities all over the place. But yeah, my tutor at the time actually maybe suggested that I might want to follow the maths route because, might open up a few better paid job opportunities for me than circus costumes. So,
and at uni, what did you do?
So, I went down the maths and economics route. I actually did my first year of uni. I did in financial economics, and then I switched over to business management in my second year because the course was bigger, the people were more extrovert and social, and it just looked a little bit more fun and sexier than advanced accounting too.
I don't know. Half my family's accountants, so I will. They never listen to this anyway. It doesn't matter. But okay, so your career is by and large FMCG. Why did you start? How did FMCG kind of come about for you?
Well, I kind of fell into it. Like I didn't know what FMCG was when I was at university. So I ended up staying in Leeds after I finished university. It's a great city, lots going on. And having done a business degree, I just applied for business roles. And there was a company called Australian Foods over there, which is a big tier 1 company. It's a pharma cooperative, best in class, awesome company to work for with some great brands like Lurpak, Cravendale milk and Costello cheese. They do private label milk, and they had a graduate intake day. I attended that, and they offered me a job.
Great. And you were there in a grad program. Was it kind of doing different roles, or straight into sales, or just doing rotations? How did it work?
So I didn't actually do the rotation thing. I actually went straight into sales.
Right.
So it was a junior role. It was like a commercial trainee business exec role. But it was a great opportunity to learn from, best practice. And I did eventually move on to a shopper marketing role, and then got a business manager role, kind of looking after my own portfolio. It was a great company to work for. Like, the people there were awesome. They were very close knit, and I was quite emotional when I left there.
Yeah, cool. And did you kind of find maths and that kind of numbers data piece, you were using that straight away, or is that kind of something you've dialed up later in career?
No, let's start them straight away. So the NAMs in the UK and stuff, and as they're expected to here, like, you've got to be commercially savvy. Yeah. You've got to know your P&L, your numbers inside out, all your drivers down to, gross margin and below. So I start with the numbers from day one. So
it's a core skill, isn't it? I was chatting to my bunch of friends the other day around, just different career paths, and we're all doing different things. One manages a fund, one's a consultant, one's a music teacher, and actually kind of talking about what they needed to be good at, and everyone was quite good at analytics and good at kind of building relationships. And almost any job is the same stuff. Right? Yeah. It's just in a different way. It's really weird how the world's kind of homogenized around some core skills. But anyway, back to you and your career. So 5 years, full roles at Arla, obviously flying along, and then here you are in Australia. So talk us through the leap from the UK from Leeds to Sydney.
Yeah, so I kind of got to a point where I was at a bit of a crossroads. So I'd been in the same city, in the same company for, 5-6 years, and I was ready for a change. I also wanted to travel as well. So I kind of had a friend that had moved over kind of 2-3 years earlier. Sydney seemed to be a pretty good place that ticked the box in terms of, the weather, the beaches, the travel. And if I could get a job over here, then yeah, great. Kind of ticks 2 of those boxes. So.
And how did you actually get into Sydney? And because there's a familiarity to the FMCG retail world here, but there's a lot of brands and that are different. And you joined Goodman Fielder, which is an Aussie brand, and not really people in the UK wouldn't know what Goodman Fielder is. So how did that happen?
So I just got contacted through a recruiter. So right. I kind of reached out to a few different people. There was an opportunity to interview at Goodman Fielder, and I went there. But yeah, you're right. I hadn't heard of a single one of those brands. And they're very iconic Aussie brands. Yeah. Sometimes
you got to catch up still. Even you've been here almost exactly the same time as I have.
Yeah, 12 years.
Yeah, we both came here in 2013. And even now I'm kind of, occasionally I look at a brand and think, oh, what's that? And they're like, that's a massive Aussie brand. You're like, I didn't grow up here. I just missed it. So you find yourself constantly kind of trying to acquire new knowledge sometimes on the landscape. But how much of it was the same for you? Was it familiar, or was it quite a bit different?
It was quite different. So I probably underestimated that coming from the UK. So although they're very similar markets in terms of maturity, there's definitely aspects of Australia which, are different. So the fact that Woolies and Coles own such a large share of the market over here does have different implications on, the business proposals and the risk that, suppliers deal with. I wouldn't also underestimate, I knew Australia was a big place. I knew the geography of Australia. But again, I probably underestimated things like, the fact that, state profitability by state is something that should be looked at. Supply chain issues, the rail line on the WA that seems to flood every single year. We didn't have those challenges in the UK. In fact, we could probably get milk out to a store when I was at Arlo within a day if they had a top-up order. So you wouldn't be able to do that over here.
No. Some differences. And if I think back to 2013, that was a real fast change period in Australia. There was a lot of UK buyers coming in. Retailers were demanding a lot more. And I guess you were coming in as a UK person, so quite familiar with what some of the behaviours that were going on in retail land. So you were at Goodman Fielder as a NAM on Coles, but then left to join PepsiCo.
Yeah.
So how did that move happen?
So again, I wasn't really looking, but I was approached by a recruiter to work at PepsiCo. bigger role. I went for the interviews there. I actually interviewed with Lex Hawley, who you'll know, she's aspirational. She's a great leader. There's a lot of women in leadership in PepsiCo. Opportunity to work on big brands back into a tier 1 company, which I did miss, having worked for Arla. So yeah, I moved across and I was there for a number of years.
Yeah, it's Lex is a podcast guest. She's been on. I think we've had a couple of people from PepsiCo on. I think at the time, and still now actually, a lot of strong female leaders in the PepsiCo business. And we are massive fans of promoting female leadership, particularly in the commercial function here. So one of the reasons you're on, Sam, as well, but is somebody who's done incredibly well. So PepsiCo, you were there for 2-3 years, big tier 1 business manager role. I guess you could have stayed for longer in that pathway, but you didn't. You stepped out to Nudie. But what were you thinking? Was that kind of at the time, genuinely, was it kind of, I've got what I could at PepsiCo, I want to do something new, or could you have stayed for longer? Oh,
I definitely could have stayed. Yeah. So PepsiCo is great at developing people. And they do move people around, and they're open and supportive to kind of cross-functional experience and things like that. I'd kind of got the breadth of experience that I wanted to get from a category point of view while I was at Goodman Fielder. So, that company is one of those rare opportunities where you get to work on everything from chilled to frozen to baking. Mm. So I had breadth of categories. Yeah. What I didn't have is kind of breadth of functions. And I'd done predominantly sales in the past. I'd done a little bit of shop marketing, a little bit of category, but I kind of wanted to round that out. Yeah. So the next move for me was probably category. And again, as I said, PepsiCo would have been very supportive of a move into category. But at a similar time, I also got taps on the shoulder around the head of sales and category role at Nudie. So, and I was really torn. But the kind of the deciding factor for me was that the Nudie role actually combined the sales and category functions. So really owning that category and commercial and sales strategy end to end. And it's quite rare that kind of those roles do come up where you do have that combination. And again, it was a smaller business, but that also meant that I could go into the business and kind of make an impact and, truly understand like where I was adding value. Bringing best practice. The team are awesome. Yeah, it was a great opportunity.
I'm all for it. I think it's ahead of the curve, really. I think in the last few years, we've been pushing this hard in terms of career pathways, ensuring that you don't just stick in your lane. It's really easy once you're in tier 1, just stay in tier 1, and there's familiarity, systems, processes, people. The businesses might change, but there's a lot of commonality in terms of that. And you worked in 3 large tier 1s. So I think stepping out to a smaller business is a really cool broadening thing for you to do. And I guess having not done it, you have expectations about what you're going to get. And the business probably has a sense of, they think they're telling you everything, but then it's from their perspective. So when you get in, it's often different. Was it what you expected, or was it quite different?
There was a few surprises.
Yeah.
There's definitely
there normally is.
Yeah, there was definitely. So you've got companies like tier 1s that have got processes embedded. It's smooth. They kind of like rotate people. So you've always got like that person there to go, hey, where's this file? Like, what happened with this? Like, you've got that kind of handover and a bit of consistency. When I actually joined Nudie, they'd very recently, before I started, gone through an exec management change and also a couple of restructures as well. So I think in my first 6 months, there was a fair few gaps within the commercial team. I didn't get much of a handover. The NAMs that were there were very supportive, but in terms of like information that was readily available, a lot of the commercials weren't there, or they'd been saved incorrectly. There was data that was quite hard to get hold of. So it was a bit of a baptism by fire. But I think, looking back, it did require myself and the other kind of senior leaders that started at a similar time to kind of really get into the detail. And retail is detail. So, building files and processes from bottom up, embedding processes, we built it, almost turned around the business from the ground up. And I think we should be really proud of what we've achieved. So,
yeah. It feels almost as if you were figuring out what needed to be done whilst you were getting into it. Did you have a mandate as well? Did you have were you given a this is what needs to be done plan by Nudie, or was it a case of, hey, Sam, we'll let you come in, see what you think needs to be done and get into it? Was it up to you, or were you given this kind of magical mandate of what you had to do?
It was a loose mandate.
Right.
So, there was definitely a requirement to, fix the business. So the business when I joined was a loss-making business. So it was about fixing the fundamentals, building a proper commercial strategy plan, creating direction for the team, and then we could move into kind of the next stage, which was kind of like growth. So that's probably what I would say.
Yeah, interesting. And now you're the GM of Nudie. Now, you've had that role for 3.5 years. Let's kind of take a deep dive. Describe where is Nudie right now, because a lot of people know the brand. I'm sure you've got great brand awareness. You'll know your numbers on that. But describe the business as part of the Monday Nielsen group, which not everyone will be aware of. So just give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, so Nudie is essentially a business within a business. So it is owned by Monday Nielsen. So I report into the CEO along with 3 other general managers. But like I said, it's almost run as a business within a business. So we've got full autonomy on decision-making from a tactical and strategic point of view. We own our P&L down to NOP. The CEO is on the end of the phone if I do need him, but it's very much an inform. And we're encouraged, and we do have full autonomy over the business. So it's quite nice because the office is above the factory. So it's meant that the team is like very, very close knit and you can get as close to each of the functions as you wish. So yeah, it's a great learning experience for anyone in any function.
So scope of that GM role, because a lot of GM roles are, when you dig into them, are effectively running sales and marketing, a bit like your head of sales and category role. Yep. But yours is not. Yours is a true GM. So what do you have reporting into you?
Yeah, so I've got a senior leadership team of 6 people reporting into me. So those functions are everything from like R&D, planning, marketing, sales, category, operations. I've got some really strong leaders in those roles as well, which is nice. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the setup of the team. And we do have some shared support services and functions as well that sit within
across the group.
Yeah, which sit within M&A. So that's like IT,
HR, finance, IT,
HR, those kind of things. So yeah.
Great. And so you said you started with a loss-making business.
Yeah.
You're head of sales and category. You're now the GM. So where we are right now is, I guess, largely down to your leadership. But are you out of loss-making into profit?
We're a sustainable business.
Sustainable.
Yes.
Very political. So.
Yeah. So we've grown the business quite significantly. We've been in double-digit growth.
Great.
Pretty much every year that I've been there. So 6 years in, we've taken the business from around $90 million brand in terms of turnover to 150. So
wow,
yeah, it's quite a big step change.
That's awesome, man. And multi-channel?
We were in multi-channel. Watch the space for the future, but there was a requirement at one stage to kind of shrink to grow and make some tough commercial calls, which were the right thing to do at the time. But yeah, I think we're at the stage from a Nudie point of view that continuing to expand kind of new channels and breaking into new categories would be where I see natural progression of the brand.
Well, I was going to ask you where does the business go, because that's real big growth in your category. So the future is still ambitious, it's still growth, but it's in new spaces.
It's in one.
It's in new spaces. You probably have you gone as far as you can in terms of the core? Or is there more share you can take?
No, I think we always need to keep focus on the core. It's that whole protect the core. It's our engine room. Yeah. So we'll always have a focus on juice, but yeah, without sharing too much.
Okay. I won't press anymore.
No, there's definitely an exciting NPD pipeline that the team are really, really excited about. So
watch this space where Nudie's going to go. Great. And out of curiosity, recruitment hat on, in terms of that GM role, was that a recruitment process to get there? Was it a natural step for you as the head of sales and category? Yeah,
it felt like a natural step to me. So obviously in that head of sales and category role, you kind of create the commercial strategy, kind of build it, execute it, bring in all the different functions and bring them on the journey and, deal with the customer, etc. The general manager role to me is kind of like an extension of that. And I did go through a process. So they did go external. And I do know that there was some more senior people with quite a few years more experience than me. But I think it came down to, what did the business need at that point in time, how quickly? And the fact that I was already in the business and knew the business cold, already had the strategy there. It was just about continuing it and taking it from, it was a 3 to 5 year plan. I was kind of in year 3 of it.
Great.
And continuing in that on that direction.
I think it's great. It's paid off, definitely, the move out of tier one to do it. And we touched on your role a little bit. I want to dig in a bit further because a lot of our listeners will have GM on their kind of wish list. I want to be a GM one day. And you are doing a genuine GM role. So I want to just kind of pick it apart a bit in terms of what you do and how you do it. Was it what you expected when you took it on, when you stepped up into it?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So it wasn't as big of a change as I initially thought it might be. So not in that sense. So in that sense, it was a continuation of what I was doing, but just an expansion of it.
Right. What was added to the role?
It was the different functions. So, for example, operations. I think if I'd have stayed in, a sales function within a tier one, I wouldn't have got exposure like I've had in this role to that kind of thing. But yeah, ultimately, my senior leadership team, they're all subject matter experts in their field, and I'm learning as much from them as they're learning from me, hopefully. And
because I find it interesting because your core function, sales, marketing, you've done other, category shopper and so forth along the way. But here you are running this business, which is effectively agri FMCG, with a complex supply chain, production facilities, which you haven't done before.
Yeah.
But I like what you said there, which is, I've got good people. Yeah. So it's technically you don't have to be across everything, but you need to know what's happening.
I need to understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to understand it for the decisions and things like that. So anything that happens kind of in that supply chain or procurement, so if there's always a knock-on effect or there's quite a lot of complexity in there that I think people underestimate. But yeah, it's been a really interesting, I love the agricultural side of it. And Yeah,
I absolutely fascinating. And if you go to that journey piece as a GM, because Nudie was more of a marketing-led business, but perhaps not as commercial. How have you sharpened it up, that commercial side?
Yeah, so just bringing in kind of revenue management practices. We've got commercial Bibles now. We live and breathe commercials. Yeah. Most things are a commercial decision with, shopper and the consumer at top of mind as well. And we do make sure that any proposals or initiatives lean into our company, but also work for the retailer and also work for the shopper. So everything's insight based, and it has to tick all of those boxes for it to pass any kind of stage gate or any of those kind of things.
So I guess that's partially your tier one background, bringing good process and frameworks so the decisions operate within that. Yeah. But with a commercial accountability, actually that's how you transition people to think about, why we're doing this.
Everything in the value chain, if you like, has to stack up for all partners. It's got to be a sustainable, profitable business for everyone. Otherwise, if one partner falls over, the whole thing falls over.
Sounds very logical, but I'm sure it's quite hard to get there with it. But as a GM, what does success look like for you? What KPIs are you held accountable for?
So in terms of KPIs, my business, we're responsible for our P&L down to net operating profit. Yeah. So we do look at every single line of the P&L. Market share is one of them. We are number one in the category, and we've grown our market share quite significantly over the last 5-6 years. I think we're more than double our nearest competitor, which is a great place to be. Yeah. Yeah, a really great place to be. But then also culture, people, there's KPIs that once upon a time didn't naturally ladder up to the financial targets. And now everyone's got KPIs that kind of ladder up to that strategy and ladder up, it's the jobs that need to be done, and it's the strategic initiatives that are going to help us drive not just the annual year budget, but also the 3 to 5 year plan as well.
I think that's interesting because I think people can get very stuck in more junior roles around what you're doing this year. Get your number. Yeah. You're in the moment, deliver it, but your role has to look further afield. How do you kind of raise a bar or raise people's heads from that short-term focus to kind of see, hey, we're actually contributing to a 3 to 5 year vision here? Yeah. How do you kind of excite them about the vision?
Well, I mean, let's say that we had a 2026 target number. You've got to start a lot of those initiatives in 2025, right? Right, yeah. Yeah. And again, to drive year-on-year growth, you kind of need to think about sequencing and how you're always going to keep yourself in growth. So the team, each of the different functions have a 3 to 5 year plan. So, for example, we've got a 3-year pack price plan that sits within sales and category, which is that revenue management piece, 3 to 5 year NPD pipeline, which obviously sits with R&D and marketing. And we've got CapEx and operational plans that go out that far as well in terms of that horizon. And we do have long-term forecasts as well. So we're not just working to that, December end forecast. We know what, the OJ requirements are going to be for the next few years, so that we can, build appropriate contracts to make sure that any initiative that we have actually ladders up to that number, and that we're giving ourselves enough time to actually work towards them.
So it's real practical, actually. Yeah. It's still measurable, still accountable within a system and process. It's just actually taking a longer term view on actually where you want to get to with targets and forecasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah. It means that our 3 to 5 year plan is realistic.
Well, yeah. Which I think often, against a lot of the listeners, not all, we have a lot of senior people listening who kind of nodding their heads going, that's great to hear. But a lot of the more junior future leaders are going, right, I didn't realize it was that measurable. I just hear about this kind of plan and I wonder, how I'm contributing. But actually that level of accountability and therefore possibly visibility too, that you've created, I think it's awesome, Sam. It's really good. So I want to move into a little bit about advice as well. So that we're very fortunate. Lots of people listening into the pod, and the whole purpose is to help others think about, their own career more than perhaps they would, because there's not a lot of resources out there around career. You've had a great career so far, lots of runway in front of you still, but I want to just reflect and think, okay, what advice would you give others? So first question, have you ever not gone for a career move and wondered, did I miss that? Should I have said yes, or should I have gone for it?
I sometimes think about what would have happened if I'd have stayed at Pepsi.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do have that succession planning, and, you kind of know where your next, role would be, and, they help and coach you and tell you what critical experiences you need to gain. So I do sometimes think about that. But then I've had a whole heap of learning experiences being at Nudie anyway, and very different ones. So would I have been able to go and, get closer to the operations function within PepsiCo? Probably not. Would I have got into a general manager role as quickly as I've got there as Nudie? Probably not. And I've learned from a completely different set of people as well. So different challenges and different categories. So
yeah, good answer. I think in career terms, it's I'm the same. Everyone's the same. You think, I wonder what if sometimes, but you make the best decision you can at the time, and you make the most opportunities that can come your way as a result.
Yeah. And there's so many different avenues to get from A to B. So
yeah, completely. Okay. Next, are there any must-do roles for those seeking to be a general manager of the future? So again, to listeners who are thinking, I'm in a whatever role, I look at Sam, I'm quite inspired by where she's at and what she's achieved. What do I need to do? What are the things I've got to kind of lock in?
So in terms of role, I'd be seeking out kind of those commercial roles. So, anything that gives you experience in, commercial acumen, building joint business plans, proposals that will drive and create value for, you and your retailer, kind of revenue management type roles. Slightly biased, but I would go into a kind of a sales or a category role, both if you can. Sales will definitely build some resilience.
Yep.
It will definitely build some resilience. And then also, in terms of gap filling, contingency planning, and, those are the kind of roles where you're thinking of the initiatives and making sure it's shopper insights. But any of the, any role that's really going to help you demonstrate and learn commercial acumen. Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Agreed. Good advice. Talking of advice, what career advice would you give a younger Sam Hutson back in Australian Foods who was thinking, the whole world's in front of them? Now, knowing what you know now, what would you say to your younger self?
My younger self? I'd say move around early. So, I did predominantly come up through sales. It's easier to move around different functions when you are earlier in your career, and be proactive about it as well. So don't sit and wait there for someone to come and tap you on the shoulder. Actively try and seek those roles out. I'd also say, you'll never be the finished product. So continuous learning and again, seeking out critical experiences will do you a world of good. Leadership's a developmental role. It's not a static role. So a title doesn't automatically make you a leader. You can be a leader at any level. So start the leadership skills early.
Brilliant advice.
Yeah.
Couldn't say that better myself, guys. So, go back, re-listen to that, what Sam just said there, guys. That's really, really good. Because part of that is around just manage your own expectation. Put your ego to one side. And you're never going to get there. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you've got to seek out new experiences.
Yeah. Critical experiences are really important. So really basic example, but, are you going to go from NAM to sales director overnight without having, collected experiences around, price increases, significant trade spend negotiations? Like, seek out those critical experiences, because that's what's going to make you better in your career rather than just a title on a CV. Yeah. So,
and good businesses and good leaders will help you on that way, but it's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing a great job helps too.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the radar because you're great work ethic and you're performing for sure, but you've got to be proactive.
Yeah. And the more senior you get as well, the more it is on you.
Yeah.
So, the more senior you get, the less they've got a structured development plan for you. You've really got to build it yourself.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. And you're the one expected to do all the development.
Yeah.
So, and talking seniority, that's you're at GM as we talked to. It's been really interesting, kind of unpicking your career path to GM. But you got there reasonably early on in career. I think, and a lot of people kind of look at a senior leader like you and go, "All right, they've made it." But you've got a long way to go, Sam. So, when you look to your own career, what are your kind of longer term goals?
Yeah. So for me, what drives me is continuous improvement over job title. So for me personally, I do love being across many different functions, but as long as I'm still learning. So the next role for me, for example, would be, something that has, bigger responsibilities, more complexity, whether or not that be, a specific function within a bigger tier 1 type company, or, a senior leadership role across functions in another SME. I'm open. I like to stay open-minded. For me, it's more about what can I learn in that role, what can I deliver for the business, and how can I develop people in it.
I think that's good guidelines. That kind of it's a real growth mindset you describe there. And so again, you don't reach titles and kind of go, I've made it. You still you learn and grow in the job. The GM that you were on day one is not the GM you are now.
Yeah.
And the role's not either. You'll evolve the role enormously in that period. And that's what a growth mindset does. And you apply that to the future, whatever that could be. But brilliant journey, Sam.
Yeah.
It's, you've come a long way very quickly, but, and great success with Nudie as well, my favorite orange juice brand. Sponsorship accepted. So thank you for sharing from Blackpool to Sydney. It's been an awesome journey.
Thank you.
For those new to the pod and AXR, we've got over 100 episodes with great leaders like Sam and many others. We do interview male leaders too. We've got an absolute 50-50 gender split, and each one introduces you to another journey of excitement and learning, because everyone does it differently, but it should inspire you in how to build your career. So thank you again, Sam.
You're welcome.
And from me, Mike Dixon of AXR Recruitment Search, thank you for listening. And we'll be back soon for more episodes and insights to help your future in sales and marketing.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.